For 9 unforgettable years, the Waltons felt like the heartbeat of American family life. Warm nights on Walton's Mountain, shared struggles, and those gentle good nights that made millions feel less alone. But behind that comfort lies a story few fans ever heard. Time changed these lives in shocking ways. Some aged beyond recognition. Others met heartbreaking ends far from the spotlight. In 2026, we revisit all 28 cast members. Where they are now, what time took from them, and the stars we tragically lost. Stay with us. Every chapter cuts deeper than the last. John Walmsley drifted into the Waltons like a melody carried on mountain air. Quiet, patient, and unmistakably sincere. When Jason Walton sat at the piano, the house seemed to listen. The pauses mattered as much as the notes. In those moments, you could feel a young artist learning how to speak without raising his voice. Born February 6, 1956, Walmsley was 16 when the series began, already trained in music and acting, already fluent in restraint. The role became his signature, a gentle counterpoint to the family's storms, and it shaped a career that valued authenticity over applause. As the show closed, he stepped away from Hollywood's noise, choosing instead a life guided by sound and solitude. He became a professional musician, composing and performing far from the spotlight, letting the work breathe. In 2026, at 70, he lives quietly in England. Still playing, still listening. Proof that some legacies don't echo loudly, they linger. Mary Beth McDonough entered the Waltons like a sudden burst of color on Walton's Mountain. Bright, sensitive, and impossible to overlook. As Erin Walton, her laughter filled rooms. But it was the quiet moments that stayed. A girl standing on the edge of womanhood, learning how beauty can be both a gift and a burden. The camera didn't rush her growth, it witnessed it. Born May 4, 1961, McDonough was just 11 when the series began, carrying emotional weight far beyond her years. Early success made her a familiar face in American homes. Yet adulthood brought a different battle. Medical complications later reshaped her life, forcing a reckoning far from the spotlight. Instead of retreating, she transformed pain into purpose, becoming an author and speaker, telling the truth Hollywood often hides. Off-screen, Mary Beth earned wisdom the hard way. Presently, at 65, she stands resilient and reflective, still sharing her story. Proof that survival, too, is a kind of grace. Eric Scott arrived on the Waltons with restless energy, like a spark always looking for dry wood. As Ben Walton, he wasn't the dreamer or the poet. He was motion itself. You felt it in the way he paced, argued, laughed too loudly, and learned too fast. Ben grew up in bursts, and the camera trusted Eric Scott to carry that urgency without softening it. Born October 20, 1958, Scott was 13 when the series began, already balancing discipline and impulse with remarkable control. Acting came naturally, but adulthood pulled him elsewhere. After stepping away from Hollywood, he redirected that same intensity into entrepreneurship, building a successful logistics business far from studio lights. The contrast is striking. A boy raised before millions, choosing adulthood in private. On screen, Ben chased the future headfirst. Off-screen, Eric chose stability over spotlight. Currently, at 68, he lives quietly, grounded and fulfilled. Proof that growth doesn't always need an audience to matter. Judy Norton stepped into the Waltons with a spark that felt quietly revolutionary. As Mary Ellen Walton, she carried fire beneath courtesy. Eyes alert, posture ready, a young woman pushing against the limits of a mountain life that expected patience over ambition. The shift was subtle at first, then unmistakable. Mary Ellen wanted more, and Judy made that hunger feel honest. Born January 29, 1958, Norton was 14 when the series began, growing up in real time before the audience. Trained early in performance, she expanded beyond television into theater, music, and live storytelling. In 1985, she famously challenged her wholesome image with a bold Playboy appearance, an act of self-authorship that reframed her public identity on her own terms. On screen, Mary Ellen fought for independence. Today, at 68, she remains creatively active, performing, recording, and speaking. Still choosing her voice, still moving forward with intention. David W. Harper arrived on the Waltons with a restless spark that felt born of curiosity rather than rebellion. As Jim Bob Walton, his presence was gentle but searching, eyes always scanning the horizon, mind always racing ahead of the dirt roads and quiet evenings of Walton's Mountain. You could feel it in the way he listened. This was a boy already imagining engines, distances, and a future not yet mapped. Born October 4, 1961, Harper was 11 when the series began, growing up under the soft glow of America's living rooms. Without formal theatrical fanfare, he delivered something rarer, naturalism shaped by sincerity. Jim Bob's dream of becoming an engineer mirrored Harper's own inward pull towards structure, systems, and life beyond the spotlight. After the Waltons, he chose privacy over applause, stepping away from Hollywood to explore varied careers far from cameras. Now, at 64, David W. Harper lives quietly, his legacy preserved not by headlines, but by the gentle persistence of a character who taught a generation how dreaming begins. Earl Hamner Jr. spoke to America not from the screen, but from memory itself. When his voice opened the Waltons, it felt like dusk settling over the Blue Ridge Mountains, soft, reflective, and deeply personal. As the narrator, he didn't guide the story forward. He gently looked back, inviting us into a past shaped by love, hardship, and quiet endurance. Born July 10, 1923, Hamner was 49 when the series premiered, drawing directly from his own childhood in rural Virginia. Trained first by life rather than theater, he had already carved a respected career as a writer on The Twilight Zone, mastering the art of emotional restraint. Yet the Waltons became his soul's work, a rare fusion of autobiography and universal truth. Behind the warmth of that familiar voice was a disciplined craftsman, humble and fiercely private. Sadly, Earl Hamner Jr. passed away on March 24, 2016, at 92, from bladder cancer. His voice still lingers, proof that some stories never stop speaking. Ralph Waite carried the quiet authority of a man shaped by responsibility the moment John Walton Sr. stepped into the lamplight. His presence felt like weathered hands on a wooden table. Steady, protective, unbreakable. In the Waltons, Waite didn't perform fatherhood. He lived it, grounding every scene with moral gravity and earned tenderness. Born June 22, 1928, Waite was 44 when the series began, drawing from a life far richer than fiction. Before Hollywood, he served as a Marine, studied at Yale Divinity School, and once preached from a pulpit, layers of discipline and empathy that shaped his craft. Early roles on Broadway and television refined his restraint, but John Walton Sr. became his defining legacy. Off-screen, Waite was deeply compassionate, politically engaged, and quietly spiritual, the inverse of Hollywood ego. Sorrowfully, he passed away on February 13, 2014, at 85, due to heart failure. Yet his voice remains, soft, principled, and enduring, like a promise whispered at bedtime that never fades. Joe Conley entered the Waltons like a door creaking open at dawn. The counter of Ike Godsey's store became a crossroads of whispers and weathered truths, and Conley filled it with a warmth that felt lived in, not acted. You could hear the floorboards settle when he spoke. Humor softened by humility, kindness earned the hard way. Born October 9, 1928, Conley was 43 when the series began, bringing decades of discipline to the role. Trained at the Actors Studio, he honed his craft on Broadway and in early television, learning restraint, timing, and the power of listening. Ike Godsey transformed him into a household presence, while later work on The Young and the Restless proved his range beyond Walton's Mountain. Off-screen, Conley was private and principled, the opposite of small-town gossip. Regrettably, he passed away on July 7, 2013, at 85, following complications from dementia. Yet his transformation endures, proof that quiet souls can anchor a world, one gentle line at a time. Michael Learned entered the Waltons like a lantern lit in a farmhouse window. Steady, reassuring, impossible to overlook. When Olivia Walton spoke, the room softened. Strength arrived without noise. Compassion carried weight. It was the kind of presence that didn't command the screen, yet quietly held it together. Born April 9, 1939, Learned was 33 when she stepped into Olivia's apron, already shaped by classical theater training and years of stage discipline. Her performance earned 4 Emmy Awards, transforming a television mother into a moral compass for a generation. Beyond Walton's Mountain, she proved her range in films like The Right Stuff and later television dramas, refusing to be defined by warmth alone. Off-screen, Learned was fiercely independent, intellectual, candid, and unafraid of reinvention. As of now, at 87, she continues to embody grace in motion, selectively appearing in projects and public conversations with the same quiet authority that once filled a family kitchen. Ellen Corby arrived on the Waltons like a granite pillar on the porch, unyielding, weathered, and quietly essential. When Esther Walton spoke, warmth followed discipline, and love arrived wrapped in expectation. She didn't soften the world, she steadied it. Born June 3, 1911, Corby was 61 when she shaped Esther's stern grace, drawing from decades of character work and an unshakable craft honed in film and television since the 1940s. Her portrayal earned 3 Emmy Awards, a testament to how restraint can thunder louder than sentiment. After suffering a devastating stroke in 1976, Corby returned to the series with remarkable resolve, transforming limitation into layered truth, each glance carrying history, each pause earned. Behind the scenes, she was disciplined and exacting, devoted to story over spotlight. Regrettably, she passed away on April 14, 1999, at 87, from stroke. Yet her presence remains, a reminder that endurance can be gentle, authority can be loving, and wisdom often speaks in measured tones that linger long after the fire goes out. Will Geer stepped into the Waltons like an old oak on Walton's Mountain, knotted by time, generous with shade, and rooted in hard-earned truth. As Grandpa Zebulun, his laughter carried the rhythm of the land, and his silences felt wiser than sermons. When he spoke, the past leaned in to listen. Born March 9, 1902, Geer was 70 when he brought Grandpa to life, drawing from a lifetime as a stage actor, folk singer, and outspoken social activist. Blacklisted during the McCarthy era, he endured years of exile, then returned with renewed purpose, his performance shaped by resilience rather than bitterness. On screen, the fire in his eyes softened into warmth. Off-screen, his convictions never dimmed. Heartbreakingly, Will Geer passed away on April 22, 1978, at 76, by respiratory failure. Yet his spirit endures, proof that integrity ages beautifully, that joy can survive hardship, and that the truest strength is often carried by those who've lived long enough to know what truly matters. Ronnie Claire Edwards entered the Waltons like a lace-trimmed whisper drifting through Walton's Mountain. Proper, curious, and quietly unforgettable. As Corabeth Godsey, she transformed nervous formality into gentle humanity, each raised eyebrow and carefully chosen word revealing a woman learning how to belong. Her presence softened the room, turning manners into meaning. Born February 9, 1933, Edwards was 39 when she stepped into Corabeth's shoes, bringing with her a background in theater, writing, and music. Trained at Baylor University and deeply versed in stagecraft, she infused Corabeth with layers of vulnerability beneath the etiquette. While the character clung to rules, the actress understood growth, allowing Corabeth to evolve from comic relief into emotional anchor. Ronnie Claire Edwards passed away on June 14, 2016, at 83, by chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. What remains is her quiet triumph, a reminder that grace can be learned, love can arrive late, and even the most delicate voices can leave lasting echoes in the heart of a story. Mary Jackson arrived on the Waltons like a memory from an earlier season of life, soft-spoken, composed, and carrying the quiet dignity of another era. As Mamie Baldwin, she brought a gentle romanticism to Walton's Mountain, her measured voice and graceful posture suggesting lives lived before the camera ever found her. She didn't demand attention, she invited reflection. Born December 1, 1908, Jackson was 61 when she joined the series, already shaped by decades of theater and classic Hollywood craftsmanship. Trained in stage performance, she appeared in numerous films and television dramas throughout the 1940s and 1950s, often portraying women of refinement and inner strength. On the Waltons, that experience translated into emotional restraint, Emily's warmth expressed through silence as much as speech. Sadly, she passed away on April 28, 2005, at 95, from Parkinson's disease. Her legacy lingers not in grand gestures, but in the calm reassurance of familiarity, the feeling that some souls exist simply to steady the world around them. Helen Klebe stepped into the Waltons like a pillar that had always been there, steady, watchful, and quietly unbreakable. As Mamie Baldwin, she carried the weight of tradition in every measured glance, her presence suggesting a lifetime of endured winters and hard-earned wisdom. When she spoke, the room didn't rush to listen. It settled. Born January 6, 1907, Klebe was 65 when she appeared on the series. Already a veteran of stage and early television, trained in classical performance that prized discipline over display. Her career spanned decades, from radio dramas to guest roles across Hollywood's golden age. But Mamie became her most enduring imprint, strength expressed through restraint. On screen, she embodied firmness without cruelty, care without sentimentality. Sorrowfully, Helen Klebe passed away on December 28, 2003, at 96. Yet Mamie Baldwin remains, a reminder that real power often lives in stillness, and the strongest voices are sometimes the ones that never need to rise. Leslie Winston arrived on the Waltons like a quiet turning of seasons, soft, hopeful, and full of promise. As Cindy Brunson Walton, she entered Walton's Mountain not with thunder, but with gentleness, bringing a shy warmth that slowly earned its place beside the family hearth. Her presence felt like a fresh chapter written carefully, one heartbeat at a time. Born May 13, 1957, Winston was 22 when she stepped into the role, carrying youthful vulnerability balanced by emotional sincerity. Trained in acting and music, she brought a natural sensitivity that contrasted beautifully with the show's seasoned ensemble. While her screen time was brief, Cindy's journey, love, loss, and quiet resilience, left a lingering imprint on the series' emotional landscape. After stepping away from acting, Leslie Winston chose a different path, working behind the scenes in film as an editor. As of now, at 69, she lives far from the spotlight. Yet her gentle performance remains, like a soft echo of youth, hope, and lives forever changed by love. Peggy Ray arrived on the Waltons like a familiar knock on the door at dusk, warm, grounding, and quietly essential. As Rose Burton, she carried the calm authority of lived experience, the kind that steadied a room without raising its voice. In those moments, the mountain air felt softer, as if the story itself paused to listen. Born October 31, 1929, Ray was 46 when she began shaping Rose, drawing from formal training at UCLA and years of stage and television work. Her early breakthroughs established her as a master of character roles, women of substance, humor, and backbone, long before audiences recognized her face. On screen, Rose embodied reassurance and resolve. Off-screen, Ray was known for tireless professionalism, moving fluidly across genres and decades, later becoming a beloved presence in family sitcoms. Sorrowfully, she passed away on February 5, 2011, at 81, due to congestive heart failure. Her real transformation wasn't reinvention, it was endurance. A life spent showing how grace deepens with time, leaving warmth behind long after the lights dim. Tom Bower entered the Waltons with the quiet gravity of someone who had seen too much to speak lightly. As Dr. Curtis Willard, his presence felt like a steady heartbeat beneath the story, measured, dependable, and shaped by duty. When he stepped into a room, the mood shifted not with drama, but with trust. Born January 3, 1938, Bower was 34 during his early appearances on the Waltons, already forged by rigorous stage training and years of character work that favored substance over spotlight. His breakthroughs came through persistence, carving a career as one of Hollywood's most reliable dramatic performers. While Dr. Willard embodied calm authority and moral clarity, Bower off-screen was a relentless craftsman, appearing in hundreds of roles across film and television, often portraying soldiers, doctors, and men carrying invisible weight. Regrettably, Tom Bower passed away on May 30, 2024, at 86. His real transformation was longevity, proving that true impact isn't loud, but lasting, echoing quietly through decades of American storytelling. Nora Marlowe arrived in the Waltons like a familiar face from a country road, unassuming, gentle, and quietly woven into the fabric of daily life. As Mrs. Flossy Brimmer, she didn't command scenes, she warmed them. Her presence carried the softness of routine kindness, the kind that steadies a town without ever asking to be noticed. Born December 5, 1915, Marlowe was 57 during her time on the Waltons, already shaped by decades of stage and television work. Trained in classical acting, she built her career through emotional precision rather than spectacle, appearing in dramas like Route 66 and The Twilight Zone. On screen, Flossie represented constancy and quiet resilience. Off-screen, Marlowe lived much the same way: professional, grounded, and devoted to craft. Heartbreakingly, Nora Marlowe passed away on January 12, 1977, at 62, from heart failure. Her transformation wasn't dramatic, it was human, leaving behind a legacy of warmth that still lingers like a light left on at dusk. Robert Donner stepped into the Waltons with the restless energy of a man who never quite fit inside straight lines. As Yancy Tucker, he felt like a gust of mountain wind, unpredictable, rough around the edges, yet strangely comforting once you learned his rhythm. The moment he appeared, the air shifted. Trouble followed him, but so did laughter, warmth, and an unmistakable human pulse. Born April 27, 1921, Donner was 51 during his run on the Waltons, already a seasoned character actor shaped by decades of hard-edged roles. Trained through classic Hollywood discipline, he built a career portraying outsiders in films like Rio Bravo, 1959, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, 1962. On screen, Yancy embodied chaos with heart. Off-screen, Donner was known as thoughtful, reserved, and deeply professional, a quiet contrast to the wild souls he portrayed. Sadly, Robert Donner passed away on June 8, 2006, at 75, from heart attack. His transformation wasn't about redemption arcs, it was about truth. And that truth still echoes softly across Walton's Mountain. Keith Coogan arrived on the Waltons like a sunrise after a long mountain night. As Jeffrey Burton, he carried the innocence of a new generation, wide-eyed, hopeful, and quietly searching for where he belonged. His presence softened the edges of Walton's Mountain, reminding everyone that growth often begins with listening, not speaking. Born March 13, 1970, Coogan was just 7 years old during his time on the Waltons, yet already surrounded by Hollywood legacy as the grandson of silent film legend Jackie Coogan. Acting came naturally, but fame never defined him. After stepping away from childhood stardom, he chose a different path: grounded, private, and deliberate, working behind the scenes and preserving the stories of classic Hollywood rather than chasing its spotlight. Nowadays, at 56, Keith Coogan lives far from the noise that once followed him, still connected to the industry but no longer consumed by it. His transformation wasn't loud or dramatic, it was gentle. And sometimes, that's the most honest kind of growing you. John Ritter entered the Waltons with a quiet sincerity that felt instantly familiar. As Reverend Matthew Fordwick, he didn't thunder from the pulpit. He listened, smiled softly, and carried faith like a shared burden rather than a command. In those brief moments on Walton's Mountain, Ritter revealed a gentleness that hinted at depths still forming. Born September 17, 1948, Ritter was 24 years old when he appeared on the Waltons. Still early in a career shaped by classical training and the influence of his father, television legend Tex Ritter. Comedy would later make him famous. Three's Company turned him into a household name, but drama was always his quiet backbone. Behind the laughter lived discipline, sensitivity, and a relentless work ethic that carried him through stage, film, and television. Sadly, John Ritter passed away on September 11, 2003, at 54, from an aortic dissection. Yet his legacy remains alive, not just in laughter, but in moments of stillness, where kindness spoke louder than words. Lynn Hamilton arrived on the Waltons like a steady heartbeat beneath the mountain air. As Verdie Grant Foster, her presence didn't demand attention, it earned it. In quiet kitchens and sunlit porches, she carried strength shaped by patience, dignity, and lived truth. The camera lingered, and suddenly the room felt fuller. Born April 25, 1930, Hamilton was 42 years old during her time on the Waltons, already a seasoned performer trained in theater and classical craft. Her career stretched across landmark series like Sanford and Son and Roots, where she consistently gave voice to resilience rarely celebrated on screen. Verdie was not loud, but she was unmovable, rooted, compassionate, real. Sorrowfully, Lynn Hamilton passed away on June 19, 2025, at 95, from natural causes. Her legacy lives on in the silences she filled with grace, reminding us that true power often speaks softly and stays forever. Robert Whiteman stepped into the Waltons like a man walking into a house already full of memories. The mountain air felt heavier, quieter. His John Boy Walton carried restraint instead of innocence, a gaze shaped by responsibility, as if adulthood had arrived early and stayed too long. The porch still creaked, but the rhythm had changed. Born July 31, 1937, Whiteman was 42 years old when he assumed the role in 1979, a classically trained stage actor with years of theater discipline behind him. Before the Waltons, he built a respected career in television and film, known for authority roles in The X-Files, Picket Fences, and NYPD Blue. Off-screen, he was private, thoughtful, nothing like the fame-hungry world around him. Regrettably, Robert Whiteman passed away on January 30, 2022, at 84, from natural causes. His John Boy reminds us that sometimes, legacy isn't about replacing what was lost, but carrying it forward with quiet grace. Louis Arquette entered the Waltons with a presence that felt solid and unavoidable, like boots on a courthouse floor, authority carried in the shoulders. As Jefferson Davis, J.D. Pickett, his voice didn't rush. It weighed decisions carefully, reminding Walton's Mountain that order and consequence walked hand in hand. Born December 14, 1935, Arquette was 37 when he stepped into the role in 1972, already seasoned by classical training and a steady climb through television and stage. Early breakthroughs on Gunsmoke, Bonanza, and Mission Impossible shaped a performer known for grounded realism. On screen, Pickett could be stern, even inflexible. Off-screen, Arquette was generous, thoughtful, a devoted father who nurtured a remarkable acting family and championed craft over fame. Heartbreakingly, Louis Arquette passed away on February 10, 2001, at 65, due to congestive heart failure. Yet his work endures, proof that quiet authority, once earned, never truly leaves the room. Richard Thomas arrived on the Waltons like a flicker of lamplight against a darkened window, gentle, observant, alive with questions. When John Boy Walton lifted his pen, the mountain seemed to lean in. His voice carried hope, doubt, and the ache of growing up too soon, turning quiet moments into memory. Born June 13, 1951, Thomas was 21 when the series began in 1972, already trained on Broadway and shaped by early film work, including Winning. His breakthrough as John Boy earned an Emmy and defined a generation, yet he resisted being frozen in time. On screen, he embodied innocence and moral clarity. Off-screen, he pursued rigor, returning to theater, embracing complex roles, and building a career of disciplined reinvention. These days, at 74, Richard Thomas remains actively engaged in stage and screen, touring acclaimed productions and mentoring the craft he loves. Still listening, still writing, still turning quiet light into lasting story. Cammy Cotler stepped into the Waltons like a morning bell. Small, clear, and full of wonder. As Elizabeth Walton, her curiosity softened the mountain air. Every question felt earned, every smile a promise that childhood could still be gentle in a hard world. When she spoke, the room listened, not for volume, but for truth. Born June 17, 1965, Cotler was 7 when she joined the series, balancing school books with sound stages, growing up in plain sight. While Elizabeth explored innocence on screen, Cammy quietly shaped a different path off it, studying education, stepping away from Hollywood's glare, and choosing purpose over applause. The contrast was striking, a child star who didn't chase the echo, but built a life of service. Currently, at 61, Cammy Cotler continues to work in education in Los Angeles, guiding young minds with the same warmth she once shared on Walton's Mountain. Proof that some legacies are lived, not performed. Thank you for returning to Walton's Mountain with us. These stories remind us that behind every familiar smile was a real life, shaped by time, love, and loss. If this journey moved you, like, subscribe, and share your memories, because their legacy still lives on.